I didn't friend you because you reached the 5,000 friend limit.
Right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Zenny62 on YouTube, and another fun night, another fascinating discussion will be had. I want to tell you, just give you a little picture of what is going on here with this AAF Football League and what's happening. The AAF, or the Alliance for American Football, was established, had 8 teams, founded in 2018, consisted of a centrally owned ownership structure founded by Charlie Ebersol, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the son of the late Dick Ebersol, who established the first XFL, excuse me. And it had great promise. It started off in 2019, and apparently they ran afoul of money. All kinds of ugly stories are coming out of this. Ex-employee files class action lawsuit. I'm staring at this right now. 2 players sue the league, alleging that they were misled and defrauded. It's terrible. How does this happen? And does this mean the coup de grace for football organizations that are not the NFL? Can anybody start a sports team? I decided to turn to my longtime friend who has an answer to this, or at least one type of answer. And I believe he is going to inform and educate us, because he was the founder of something called the A11 Offense League. And he is none other than Steve Humphries. Steve, welcome to Zenny62. How you doing?
Hey, Zenny. How are you, buddy? Thanks for having me.
You got it, man. Thanks for being on. Absolutely.
Always great to chat with you.
Oh, yeah, you too, man.
It's wish it was a Cal football game.
I know. See, folks, we see each other at Cal football all the time, and I gotta share with you. I love the Cal family. I don't know if you know Diane Schatz, but Diane has the hardest hug in the world, and there is a photograph of Diane hugging me so hard that I literally turned red. Now look at me, okay? I mean, I thought I was going to pop like a grape. I was just like, oh my Lord, that is a strong woman. But anyway, that's
probably after a Cal touchdown.
Yeah.
Cal
no, she just saw me. She was just happy to see me. You know, her husband's standing right there and everything. What can I say, right? So Steve, what do we make? What are we to, first of all, before we go in that direction, talk about the football league you started, the A11 Offense League.
Well, it was on the A11 Football League, and it was a football league with a slight twist in the rules for spring football, which basically took football back to its original rules format, where an eligibility would be determined by where you line up on the line of scrimmage, not by your number. And it was the game of football that was right around the 1930s, 20s, 30s. And, we ran it at the high school level and had the ability to be able to run it for 2 years. It's kind of serve as a crystal ball of how the league could look. And it was a really dynamic, wide open game that was a lot of fun for fans with really fun formations. And, after we left our high school coaching positions and were able to pursue a possible pro football league, and it kind of gained some steam and gained the former director of the Rose Bowl to be the commissioner, who was connected with ESPN and some investor money, and we were just about up to the point where we had an announcement about the league, and before real operations were going to begin, we had to shut down because the investor money couldn't come through. But it was a wonderful project that gained a lot of momentum. We created incredible brands, pro-level brands that ended up winning the Clio Gold Award for the top sports brands of the year. And, there was a lot of great opportunities that we really wish could have come forward, but, luckily we're not in the position of the AAF now, where they played their 8 games and left a lot of people in the dark, and left holding the bag. So Yeah, would love to chat with you about, there's a lot of cool insight with what we learned throughout the process.
Hey, I want to ask real quick, because you coached at Piedmont High in Piedmont, California. And I was about to say Piedmont High in Oakland, California, because it's surrounded by Oakland. But at any rate, but seriously, your brand of offense wasn't anything to be ignored. You set a number of records, didn't you?
Well, not necessarily records, but we may have set the record for the only offense that was actually banned by the National Federation of High School Sports. So that's pretty good. And it created the traditionalists that love the game of football, Smash Mouth football, did everything that they could to make sure that it couldn't continue in its current format. But it can still be run on 3rd and 4th downs and on extra points at NCAA. And we do see some pretty cool, unique formations in the NFL from time to time. And we did adapt that offense to traditional rules and numbering rules. And we just put a lot of great athletes and rugby players and lacrosse players in ineligible numbers and gave them the football in a variety of ways. And, it was really a fun offense to run.
Have you ever thought about giving it another go in terms of spreading the gospel of that kind of offense? Because I remember there's actually a famous clip on YouTube of the Bengals using the formation.
Yeah, no, it's there's something to be had for putting athletes in some ineligible positions and having them. I mean, you can see. William the Refrigerator Perry carried it was in an ineligible number and carried football for a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think it was Poe for the Chiefs took a handoff and did a jump pass for a touchdown a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, and then the Patriots offensive linemen catching a couple passes for touchdowns. It's just a nice way to kind of mix up some of the monotony of the traditional style football. I don't know. It's just fun. We enjoyed it. We had a good time.
And at what point when you started the league, how far did you get in terms of fundraising and planning before you realized, oh, this can't work? Where were you?
We were at the point where people were going to have to cut some serious checks for the league to continue. We had already paid for all of our brands in full to our designers, and we had held a press conference. And then when it was time for the investors that were making commitments to actually cut the checks, they couldn't do it, and caused us to have to fold.
Wow!
Before we even got off the ground.
Wow!
Because you get off these time frames. If you're going to start a league, in the spring of 2021, let's say, or 2020, and you've got to start right now getting your brands, getting your fans lined up, getting all your social channels secured, all your trademarks done. Then you have other teams of people that are working simultaneously on parallel paths to try to raise money and get investors committed and get that money in the bank. And then but all the while you're on the tracks and you're moving down the tracks at full speed. And training camp is coming. Before training camp comes, you're going to have players, and you're going to have money to be able to fly them into camp. You're going to have the camp secured. You're going to have all the stadiums for your season secured, 6-8 months in advance with deposits on those. So there's money that needs to get distributed as you're coming, fast and furious, and you've got to be able to, keep on track, because, you can't start your first, game of your league without doing any training camp,
Mm-hmm.
And you got to start making payroll, which, apparently was one of the issues with the AAF, within the first week, they were having trouble making payroll. A new investor had to step in. And so, really, what I think a lot of the leagues are doing right now, or a lot of the startup leagues are hoping to kind of bootstrap it to a point, and then, hoping that, they really need to have the big investor that's going to be able to understand and be able to handle, major losses and commit to those losses for the first 3 years, at least 3 to 5 years, before that league can really, get to the level where it can become a sustainable spring league. And, I think luckily the XFL that's coming has a really great opportunity because they have that kind of investor.
Well, and looking at the AAF, what do you think happened to them? Where do you think went wrong?
Well, I mean, I was just looking at an article today where Steve Spurrier said that, they were, an investor was expected to, come up with some money and they couldn't do it. And they had fun, and another guy had to step in. And, one of the things that we noticed with our dual track team was we were able to get some, an initial, probably $1.5 to $2 million to really get the executive team in place and start being able to chase that major investor money. But what you end up seeing is a lot of investors are, what we call looky-loos, and they just, they want you to spend time with them. They want to feel like they are, that they can be an owner of a sports league. They want to play big time, but when it comes time for them to stroke the check, they can't do it, and they're not going to do it. And so there's a lot of time wasted on investor teams that really seem viable that end up that they aren't viable, and that's valuable time wasted. When you've got a really short run up and you really need a lot of things to go right for you during that time. And we met with Texas oil people. We met with New Mexico natural gas guys. We met, and we met with a lot of good people. And, a lot of them made a lot of millions and billions of dollars by being smart investors. And a lot of that, that's having a positive cash flow business within a relatively short period of time. And a sports league is tough for, major investors like that, because a lot of these investors, it's hard for them to conceive that, a sports team is going to be worth, say, $1 million out of the gate, but that'll be worth $150 million 5 years down the line after $200 million in losses. So that's the game with sports franchises. The Warriors story. They're worth what, $2 billion right now at least, and
$3 billion. $3 billion. Yeah, $3 billion.
And they were purchased for what, 164 or something like that.
I thought it was one. I read the other day that they were purchased by Joe Lacob for $450 million.
Okay. There we go.
And because Chris Cohen had said, "I'll sell it to you for $440," and Lacob said, "Stop you right there. I'll write a check for $450 million," and he did. Now Cohen, on the other hand, yeah, he bought it for $150 million. But if you consider what the purchase price was for the Warriors when Joe Lacob got a hold of him, and he outbid Larry Ellison, and you look at it's now worth $3.5 billion, then he really was the beneficiary of a huge jump. Of course, he just finished building a new stadium, right? But still.
Right.
And then the NBA has been on this incredible high in terms of increasing franchise value. So,
Joe Lacob, comparison to like a sports, like the major sports leagues like NFL, NHL, MLB, is that they have established television contracts, and track records over decades, and that's one of the major problems with the startup leagues is that we were the only league that actually had an ESPN contract in hand. The other ones, they had the other channels, but ESPN is, that's
huge.
The ultimate is to be able to have an ESPN contract, and even with them, they're not just going to hand out. All of a sudden, like you guys are going to be starting a spring football league. Okay, your contract is going to be worth $80 million a year. It doesn't work that way. We were going to have to pay almost $250,000 per game. To be able to have, probably a level a little bit below, ESPN College.
Really? Well, let me get this. Let me understand something.
Trucks and all that.
Let me understand something, folks. This is Steve Humphries, my friend. He is talking about the A11 football league he started, what he learned, and how he evaluates what's happened to the AAF, the Alliance of American Football, in the context of what he did and what he learned. I have to ask you, John McCullough makes a quick statement here. John McCullough is one of my regular viewers. He says, I feel also these leagues don't make it because they get mostly players that are not known to fans and pretty much didn't make it on NFL teams, so they get all the scrubs. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of NFL players that are kind of slotted into certain types of positions too. And, our league was really geared towards a lot of, multifaceted athletes playing a lot of different positions. Like, when we played the game, and our quarterbacks would basically, they learned how to zone block. We had, so we were there doing line work, running, throwing, passing. Our somewhat line guys could throw a pass, catch a backwards pass, run with it. But we had athletes, so it was perfectly geared for a lot of that zone read type game, in the college game, where there were a lot of those superstar players in some good markets that, we even approached Tim Tebow about giving him half or a major ownership position in the Tampa Bay Bandits team that we were going to launch in Tampa Bay. And he was so committed to his NFL quest that, we got nowhere with that. But that would have been, Tim Tebow.
That would be huge. Yeah, I remember you were going after him. Yeah, you were really excited about that.
Could have been one of the most popular, teams in Florida.
Yeah.
Bandit ball, Tim Tebow and, having some real nice spread, great spread offense type game, with those kinds of players. And they may not have been NFL style players, but they definitely would have been, wide open game A11 style players,
Yeah, and so
I agree with them. So it makes it tough on some of the other teams, leagues that are starting that are just trying to go with an NFL style of game. That they're getting a lot of no-name players that didn't make it, and players that may have been superstars in the Missouri market, but nobody in Los Angeles knew that player ever, in college. So that's also a big problem with some of these small market teams that they get into. But those small market teams are chasing stadiums that are open at the time, and like we had all major NFL stadiums lined up, and Tampa Bay, and like right now the XFL, we have a team in Tampa Bay right now, and they're going to be playing in that stadium. And when you play a major stadium, NFL stadium, you're not going to get, parking revenue. You're not going to get the sponsorship revenue. You may not even get any of the revenue for concessions. You may only get ticket revenue, and that's it. That's a very small amount of money that it takes to run a league. And when you're self producing your games, which then are going to be broadcast on ESPN, and then trying to sell your ad space, that's it's very hard for a pro league to start from scratch in football, and that's once again why I think this XFL, with all of their infrastructure from wrestling, WWE, and Jim McMahon, I think that they have a tremendous opportunity to go round two and learn from whatever they had before and really try to make a big run at it, because they have some deeper pockets.
Hey, I'm curious on the matter of media. What does it say about where digital media is right now that you don't have a digital media player that stepped in and remarked, okay, I'll spend $1 billion on either, say, A11 offense, maybe digital media wasn't as developed then, or AAF today, or the Freedom Football League, which breaks some news here as I speak, is having an investor meeting in several different cities. They are having meetings with potential investors in San Diego and in the Bay Area, two of, I believe, several cities, but I digress. That's a league that a mutual, you know, Michael Daughterer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
That's a new league that a mutual friend of ours, Michael Daughterer, one of the few two-sport stars in Stanford history, and a star of the Cal big game. He was on the losing end, yay. But at any rate, the bottom line is, I had to get that in there. You hear how I got that in there, Steve? But
I don't know how I got to be friends with him on Facebook, but yeah.
My daughter is friends with everybody, but he's a great guy too. But they are having investor meetings as I speak, but my thought is, why can't or is the money not there such that a Google YouTube, or an Amazon or another digital media player can't come in and say, we'll invest $500 million to start, right? And they have content, or Netflix, right? Am I missing something?
Well, just 2 years or 3 years ago, and I've got more than that now, maybe like 5 years ago. But we, that would have been a dream for us to have, Google step in. We talked about it, we met with YouTube, and they definitely wanted to be able to broadcast A11 FL Monday Night Football games on YouTube. But, once again, it was all self-produced, and, we would have gotten some revenue, from them in a different way. But, I think that a lot's changed in 5 years dramatically. Maybe there is Netflix might want to start, a business, a professional sports league as a basis for content. And like I said, 5 years ago, that was a dream for us, but, there was no way that was going to happen back then. That market's more mature now. So the opportunities could be there, but the problem is if, the XFL gets off, they're right now they're pulling in some great coaches, and they're only a year out right now. And, once they step in, then all the investor money is probably going to dry up for everybody else. I don't know how much, there's just a lot of competition, for people's time. And, you got the NCAA with, most teams that have 100 years of heritage and history behind their teams. NFL's established, MLB. But, you still see, like even Major League Baseball, you still see a lot of empty seats,
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's really tragic. Even like you mentioned Major League Baseball, the Las Vegas baseball stadium opened, and that crowd was milquetoast, I thought.
You see a lot of empty seats even in the NCAA basketball tournament. In the beginning games, there's looks like they're only 20% full, in some of those games. And so, there's such I think that when the fans are going to, I just believe that the fans are going to follow the highest quality right now, because, it's going to be, and some established teams in their area that have been there for a long time. And it's just going to be really hard for any other team or any other league to be able to compete, even with those NCAA teams in their own markets, even though it is spring. I don't believe that there's an insatiable appetite for football. There's, one thing that was impressive with the AAF, and I was just looking at the numbers the other day, is, they had 250,000 Twitter followers. They have 120, thousand fans on Facebook. But each team has, 50,000 followers, which is
that's pretty good
worth of followers.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of value in what they've left behind with all that fan base. But how did it translate to revenue for them? And are those fans, did they buy enough merchandise to keep the league alive? Did they buy enough tickets to keep the league alive? Did they have it? Was there enough fans watching for the ratings to be big enough to keep that league alive? And apparently it wasn't.
That's why I asked about I'll just call it the Netflix model or the YouTube model, because what YouTube does today, they started doing this 2 years ago, roughly 2.5 years ago. Well, actually, no, I take that back. 2016, they started buying media properties, that fan-made movies that were of such high quality that they could be shown in theaters. But my thought was, out of those buys, YouTube would insert YouTube stars, like, for example, Josh. Trying to think of a number of stars, another people. They were doing it with PewDiePie until PewDiePie went off on a tangent and said things he shouldn't have said, and then they took him off that. But I use that example to say, is there a possible market to do the same thing with a team, and yet you build of the athletes that maybe were known in college, but were not NFL draft level? You can develop them into YouTube stars from the perspective of a sport gridiron, operation, where you have the show, and then you have the reality TV component, and you have the sports component. You know what I'm saying? Because YouTube does that right now, but they don't have a sports component.
Yeah, but you see, in order to get to that point, they're going to need to have a league. And one of the things that I think is a big barrier to what you're saying is that just an 8-league team, or eight-team league, is such a complicated venture to put together. There's so many people that need to be employed. It's such a cash intensive endeavor, with so many people getting on payroll and producing media. And it's just and workers' comp issues, with injuries and all that. I think that it's just such a complicated venture to even start to the point where you can even have it be that, and so it sounds great in the back end, but when you really put it to work with the complicated nature of starting a football league and all the different variables in play, I think it's just too complicated. They're finding it elsewhere.
I asked this question of Eric Metz last night, sports agent. Is football as a whole on the upswing or the downswing? What I mean by that is, how should we look at the AAF's collapse in the total context of the market demand for football in the United States, if not the world? Is this an anomaly, or is this really a true example of a lack of money to invest in football other than the NFL or the XFL?
I mean, they just need to find the right investor that's willing to absorb losses for a certain number of years to be able to create a league venture that fans can get behind and follow. And at that point, then a new league can start. I mean, with the AAF having 250,000 fans, followers, and 50,000 per team, within the first year, that's
huge.
Darn good numbers.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I think, is just entirely in having investors, the right investors that can handle that, the losses for a certain number of years, and get the league to the point where it is viable, and where it can get that first, where it can get some numbers, self-produced numbers that are to the point where, they'd be worthy of a major television contract. And so it takes a lot of, and it's, unfortunately for the game of football, it's not basketball, 12 players. I mean, it's 50 per team. 35 to 50 if the start wants to go a little bit lean on it. But there's just so many employees that need to run the engine of the media too. From bloggers to photographers graphic designers, which are also working on investor, materials, and and videographers, and putting all that time intensive stuff together, and it's just that there's an incredible amount of people that and that it takes to put a team together at the pro level worthy of fans to follow.
Hey, folks, we're on with Steve Humphries, who started the A11 Football League. He's talking about the lessons to be learned from the collapse of the AAF with the XFL, or the recreated or rebooted XFL. Hey, do you know they're rebooting the Chucky movie on that note? I just had to throw that in. But at any rate, I'm serious.
Have you ever seen those Chucky videos that where the guy dresses up and he hides at the bus stops?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like the bus stops and people run for their lives. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that. That's by an ad firm, right? I think.
I think so.
Yeah, they were in New York. I forgot their name. I did a video on one of their gags from a movie. They had this baby in a stroller, and then they did another one for the remake of Carrie, where they had taken over this cafe, and one of the patrons was Carrie, an actress, and somebody bumped her, and next thing you know, she's lifting this guy in the air with her mind, and it's all a cool trick. That's what he's talking about. Anyway, but that's what he's referring to. But do you believe the NFL can be supplanted? Because let's face it, the objective decades ago with the USFL, excuse me, was to have a replacement for the NFL. And of course, that didn't happen, but they arguably made a pretty good go of it. Is that still possible now, or is it completely impossible? And if so, why?
Well, the USFL had their chance way back when the NFL wasn't as strong as it is now. But with the NFL teams owning, all these stadiums, they're really, they would be the landlord for most any, new venture, sports team,
true,
football league venture.
Yeah. And
with that, they would control the money and the sponsorship revenue for, stadium signage and parking and everything again, like I said. So, until the sports league can get into, become viable enough where they can start building their own stadiums, there's going to be a dominance by the NFL for quite a while.
Hey, speaking of which,
plus people love the NFL. I love the NFL too.
Yeah, ditto. I love the NFL, even with the whole Raiders thing. My love for the NFL predates that. I covered the NFL draft since 2005, but that's another story. I want to get John Akala has another. There's a question or a statement, but I'll just go for it. It says, John says, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for a spring league to survive. Fans have enough football in the fall and probably need a break afterwards. So how about that? Because in the fall, you not only have pro football, you've got college football, high school football, and everything in between. I mean, heck, for the Super Bowl, we have a lingerie bowl, right? In fact, come to think of it, how come if you have the lingerie bowl, do you not have a lingerie league? Just asking.
They did, didn't they?
Did they? Well, I gotta look that up. Wait a minute, maybe I missed it.
Pro lingerie football league. But then there's a lot of people looking forward to the NFL draft. That's a big event too.
Zenny 62 Media's credential for the 14th straight year. We're looking for sponsors, folks.
But we do. There is. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of fans. Like the NFL is. To go to NFL games and college games, it's very expensive for the average family. And like I was telling you earlier, I did some marketing and sports brand design for the Hannibal Cavemen.
Yes.
In the Prospect Baseball League, which is it was just such a great team name, I couldn't pass it up. But Hannibal, Missouri, they had a beautiful old an old stadium there.
The Hannibal Cavemen.
Yeah, but it was hard to sell $5 tickets for a Tuesday night game. The stadium held 1,500 fans or 1,200 fans, and there's 400 at a game in a small town in Missouri, beautiful idyllic town where it's the only it's their team, and they're having trouble because families, it may be during the summer, but a lot of the league was towards the end of the school year, and parents got to get their kids to bed and get them fed and get their homework done, and they can't even they can't support the 25 game home schedule. So I think that with a lot of the different sports that are available, it is probably taxing on the average American, to be able to handle season tickets for multiple football teams throughout the year.
Hey, we were talking about women's football leagues, and I found one. It's called the Women's Football Alliance. It says it bills itself as the world's top professional league. It's at www.wfaprofootball.com. And hey, I'm not kidding you. It's got the teams they have by division and by state. They've got Alabama has the Huntsville Tigers. Arkansas has the Arkansas Wildcats. Arizona has the Phoenix Phantoms with a Z. The Tucson Rage, excuse me. California has 6 teams: the Inland Empire Ravens, the Kern County Crusaders, the Cali War, the Ventura Wolfpack of Ventura, California, the Eastern Sierra Mustangs of Bishop, California, the Oceanside Force of Oceanside, California. I mean, and my God, I was about to go on a listing of all the teams. Folks, I would be here for the rest of this show, literally naming off all of these teams. There are a lot of teams here. I had no idea. Did you know this existed?
No, but you would have to imagine that, with the number of fans they're probably getting at their game, that there's a lot of those games are going to be local. They're going to be try to play each other as close as possible. You're not going to see one of the Eastern Sierra team going to Huntsville, Alabama. That's a major. Takes a lot of time to get there. If they're not flying, if they're all flying, it's going to be extremely expensive, way more than the cash flow that they would probably be making on any of their tickets, at the gate. But I think that it's all fun for those folks. God bless them. Sounds awesome.
This is under the radar, folks. Listen to this, Steve. The Women's Football Alliance, WFA, was designed to create the largest and most comprehensive women's tackle football league in the world. Women's tackle football teams and leagues have been in existence for over 4 decades, but the most promising growth in the sport, both in the number of teams and in the level of competition, has taken place over the last 5 years. And it goes on. Yeah, it goes on. I'm stout now thinking of the rise in women who work out, who have no problem, looking hot, and then at the same time having muscle. You know what I mean? The growth in women's rugby, in particular, and the athletes that come out of women's rugby. And I was thinking about like the Berkeley All Blues and other teams, and it makes sense that you would have the rise of the female athlete in football, but I didn't realize that it was to a point where these, I guess you could call this a cottage league, existed. This is we've broken a story here. This is something else here. It says with over $20,000 in rewards, the WFA national champions earn 10 times their investment. Now, you hear that, Steve? 10 times their investment for playing in the league, an incentive that encourages and supports success on the field, giving teams the ability to remain financially stable. You hear that, Steve? While simultaneously attracting younger athletes was the recipe for teams to become more competitive each year. This is quite interesting. I mean, Lisa King is the commissioner, and she's the only contact there. So,
well, hopefully they have a nice long-term plan,
yeah,
for survival, and that would be great if they could just take some time for their league to just kind of grow organically, and that would be wonderful.
She's got Tag Sports Gear as a partner for shoulder pads, Zenith for helmets, Sports Decals for decals. This is something else. I have to ask you, given this find here, you were talking about the Cavemen, which I think has got to be the greatest sports name for a team ever created. How? I mean, because hey, think of all the fun you can have with that name. the Cavemen clubbed the Cowboys 34-3. You know what I mean? I mean, there's all kinds of, the Cavemen, or the Cavemen have iced the victory. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could say. It's like, all kinds of cliches you come up with. But my point is, did the AAF miss the brand boat? Do you think maybe they could have attracted more attention if they had paid better attention to branding, or did they?
I believe that they hired some of the top sports brand designers to do their brands. I just don't. I thought a lot of them are real nice. The problem, I just think entirely, is just with investor money.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my thought on it. A lot of good looking helmet decals, and I like the Arizona Hot Shots. I thought it was a pretty nice brand they put together.
I like that name, the Hot Shots. But is the Cavemen?
I prefer the Bay Area Sea Lions brands and the New Jersey Generals brands that we built. But that's just me.
I thought the Jersey Generals name was really that was really cool. That next to the New England Patriots. Okay, so this begs the question: what is the best brand name in the NFL in your opinion?
Oakland Raiders.
Yeah. So, but then they're moving to Las Vegas.
Cowboys.
Doesn't that diminish it? Doesn't that make them sound a little weaker? I mean, Las Vegas, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not the same.
No, I mean,
it's not the same as Kenny Stabler and Fred Biletnikoff and Cliff Branch and Jim Otto, Oakland Raiders. But
yeah, Big
I think
Ben
there's a lot of
Davidson.
people excited for the Vegas. I'm actually excited to go to a Raiders game in Vegas sometime, and I think it'll be fun. But we'll see how they fill that stadium. Hopefully, they fill it to the brim.
And that was going to be my next question, because Jerry Jones has said something several times that to me is alarming. Specifically, he says that ticket sales are only 7% of the NFL's revenue. Translation: we really don't need the fans in seats to make money. Should he
about the television contract?
Yeah, but I mean, if that's the case, should we be concerned that the Raiders' first game in Las Vegas is not going to look like a sellout? I think it will be a sellout. I'm just asking, though.
I think it'll be a brand new stadium, and should we be concerned about? Probably,
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the television ratings are going to be driving their success there.
Think it's going to be gambling?
But yeah. So I think there's going to be gambling.
Do you think gambling revenues will eventually drive or take over as the media rights fees start to get hammered down? At some point, these rights fees got to come down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't really been following like the future of gambling and how it's going to tie into the sports leagues getting a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be a future problem and benefit for them. Same time.
You ever think of doing it all over again, getting back in with starting a league, or maybe getting in? Did Daughter call you? Daughter certainly called me about the AAFFL. I don't know if you got a call or not. What are your thoughts on jumping on board these new football leagues?
I would love to do a whole other league of brands again. That would be, we did a whole suite of brands for the A11 FL, all 8 of them. And that was a great project. That was probably one of the best projects I've ever been involved in. And having all those brands win the Clio Award was pretty crazy.
Congratulations.
We met with some NFL art directors, and we got during the Clio Awards, we brought a fully mocked up Bay Area Sea Lions orange helmet with us, and they said it was definitely an NFL caliber helmet. So that was pretty awesome.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Did the NFL borrow any tricks from you all?
No. They don't even borrow any tricks from anybody.
Could have been something in there.
I'd like to say, even John Gruden during the NFL, I think it was the Bengals that did run a couple A11 type plays, and he didn't even call it the A11, an A11 play. He called it a Star Wars offense.
A Star Wars.
We had such low respect that he couldn't even. And he's friends with Scott Cavemen, our commissioner, too. He wouldn't even give it to us. I couldn't believe it.
You're kidding.
But that's okay.
Wow. Yeah. Man, have you seen Gruden since he got back?
No, I've never met him, actually.
Oh, I met John in 1998 when I was L. Harris Economic Advisor, and a mutual friend of ours, Charlie Santana Jr., invited me to this Raider party. And I had a play idea for John that I drew up, which he thought was really interesting. He said, hey, call my secretary and come on by and let's talk football. And I never took him up on it. Then I ran into him at the 2004 Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party, and he said, don't just stand there, get the blanking napkin. And so I started drawing this play that I remember to this day. And then when he came on the ESPN, I was covering the NFL draft. And so as a quasi joke, I took a sheet of paper and I scribbled exactly the same play that I gave him with a note. And I had the guard give it to him, and he cracked up because, you know, he's up on our high and I couldn't get up there and shake his hand or anything. And then the time I saw him after that was last year when he came back as coach, and he was at the combine. I was there for the day, so I got a partial video of him because my YouTube live stream decided it was not going to act right, which I'm still at this point a little puzzled about, but whatever. And then I saw him again at the NFL annual meeting last year, and I had a play for him, and he had his PR director, Will Kiss, specifically wait for me in the lobby to get the play from me. So, yeah. So, hey, man, my stuff works. You know, I haven't created anything like the A11, but in terms of conventional sets, I got it going on, man. So I wouldn't even call them conventional sets, though. I would call them sets that have respect for space and time. Let's put it that way. Although I'm highly influenced by what you've created, and I think that you ever thought of writing a book, you know, the A11 Offense for the NFL book, something like that?
No, that would take too much work. But,
you say you're too lazy? What's good? I'm just kidding.
If you go to A11Offense.com, we've got probably 8 or 9 playbooks that are available for free download.
Yeah, true.
And we've had thousands and thousands of downloads for each one. And you know, there's a lot of really cool looking plays in there, and it's all adapted to current traditional football rules. So it is an A11 offense adapted for traditional numbering on the field, which is really cool. And that was what we ran the last 2 years of our coaching, and it worked great. And so there's a lot of really fun looking plays that you'll see that, you know, they do look like trick plays, and there's packages that teams can employ instead of running a full-blown offense like we did. There's certain play packages for special situations. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there.
Yeah, there is. I haven't been to the site in quite a while, but I used to visit it quite frequently, and you're absolutely right on with that. What do you think? I got to ask you while we're talking about, we're both old Blues. What do you think of Cal Athletics? And because it seems like every time I turn around lately, there's some sort of scandal coming out.
Right.
What's happening?
Well, I mean, I don't know. In the last situation with the young lady there, let's see, who's the
what's her name? Paige,
training assistant. Mm-hmm. You know, people have to be real careful, you know, with their staff, and it only takes something happening with one person for it to become a major issue, especially on the HR front. And you know, coaching staffs everywhere, you know, across the country have to be wary of that. You know, treat everybody with ultimate respect, because that young lady, you know, I don't know whether the story is true or not true, but the bottom line is she was a part of their team,
right, and
needed to be looked after. Right. And you know, you need to be really, really careful with and be, you know, rooting for every single member of your entire organization and looking out for their success. And if something's happening like that, and from some of the reports, even from the, player to trainer, harassment is really, really ugly. There's, was the reporting done correctly? I would hope that, and then also the infrastructure they have in place to handle that. That's, that's something that every league and every team really needs to keep a close watch on, this day and age, because, can't have that in your organization at all. And then, just for other things that go on, they've had some players, they had a football player pass away.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's just real tough luck. I mean, I don't know how you can even plan for that, or, there's just a lot of things that go on in life, that just so happen to be piling up in Cal's direction right now. But,
yeah,
on the other hand, Stanford had, the sailing coach at Stanford was getting players in with, the enrollment issue
mm-hmm.
that they were having, across the nation. So,
yeah, but it's just like Stanford. That would have to be sort of high-end, multi-million-dollar thing, and it can't be some sort of typical scandal like we seem to be plagued with of late. Hey, quick question on that. Are you saying that there are 3 harassment cases at Cal? Oh.
No, it's just all I know is just that one. That there was a lot of different.
Because there was the one that
was in play with what she reported.
Okay, yeah, because there was the one involving, I think, the intern, and then there was the other involving Mr. Mikhtar, which is unfortunate, to say the least.
Yeah.
And okay, so those are just those 2. All right, I'm glad there's not a third. But it seemed that we're not putting winning product on the field either. It's like you got these problems, and yet, is it that we're not hiring the right people that put a winning product on the field, and maybe they're not paying enough attention to their craft? I feel like there's something that, as a university, we're not doing right. I think just being Berkeley, we should approach this in a way that's hybrid. That's campus wide, and where you have interdisciplinary participation in such things as football operations and player evaluations, and having a contest where the students actually produce a game plan or forecast, just out of the box stuff that gets the university more engaged in what's happening with the football program,
Well, I think they can just do a better job of recruiting locally. And we've got such an incredible, talent at the area, all across the board. And a lot of that talent's leaving down to LA and up to Oregon and Washington and elsewhere. And so to be able to do a better job of recruiting in our own backyard and to be able to land some of our unbelievable, high school athletes, that's probably would be one of the biggest things that they could do. But, all those athletes are in high demand, across the board, NCAA too. So, it's a major recruiting, battle that goes on, for a lot of these great athletes. And, and coach-wise, I think that we've got some got a pretty nice coaching staff football-wise. And, and some of the other teams, they made the decision to, to let the basketball coach go, and then they hired the guy from Georgia. But I don't know. I just think we're doing a better job recruiting in our own backyard. I think would be really key.
Yeah, I completely 1 billion% agree with you on that note. It's going to be an exciting college football year. I just hope we have a better offense attack. Maybe you can get Coach Wilcox to copy the A11. We need that on offense, man. I'm serious.
Play a lot of good defense at Cal. That's what we like. So
yeah. Well, we have that in place, right? But we have to get the offense. We have to get the offense down. I can't think of a better person to lead the charge than the man that I'm talking to on the phone. I think you ought to do that, Steve.
Maybe I'll write a couple plays up on the napkin.
There you go. Well, I'll bet you he hasn't visited your website. I think Coach Wilcox, if you're watching this, look, just send me a note. I'll give you Steve's numbers. Okay, if I give him your number?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Call the man and inquire about the A11 offense for Cal. Okay, just go nuts. We need something. I want a Rose Bowl, don't you?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think that one of the things that not just Cal but other teams can do is and some of those it happened in the big game, and there's it's 4th down and 3 on the other team's 43-yard line, and we're punting the ball.
Yeah.
Fans don't want to see that shit.
Right.
What they want to see is having some balls and going for it, and coming up with a really unique play, something fun. Fans don't care if you make it or not. They just want to see that you tried and that you went for it, and that you went to win the game rather than not lose the game.
Yeah. Does it give you a bellyache to see Jeff Tedford do so well?
I love Tedford.
I don't mean it in a bad way. I love him too.
No, I've always loved him.
But I'm saying a bellyache in terms of look what we lost.
Awesome that he went to the CFL and had great success up there with BC Lions, and then now he's coming back and he's settling in and seems to be enjoying his next phase of his career, at Fresno State, and he's a great coach.
Yeah, but don't you think he should have been back at Cal? I mean, why couldn't we just brought him back? I know he had some weak years going out, but he got better. Just yank him back.
Yeah, he may have learned some new things, make him even better coach to be a great coach at Cal again. I love Tedford.
Oh yeah. He's a great guy, great person to know. I had the pleasure of meeting him.
Sorry.
Oh, you go.
We used to go to a lot of coaching clinics with him that the Cal staff would put on, and they really made a major effort to recruit locally. Probably the best of any Cal staff that I had seen before that. So they put on coaching clinics and opened up their spring football for local coaches to come down. I mean, it was wonderful.
Oh, there's something else. Well, Steve, I know you got other things to do. I've had you on for about an hour, but I have you back. We got to come back and talk more football leagues and Cal football. And you know what? I'll have more information on women's football leagues. I'm going to contact the commissioner of that.
Yeah, get her on.
Yeah, I'm going to get her on. Lisa Falk is her name. I'm going to get her on here. That'll be a lot of fun. Definitely.
Hey, Zenny, always awesome to spend time with you and chat with you. You do a lot of great work.
Oh, God, thank you.
Always interesting and fun to be around. So thanks so much for having me. It's really been a good time.
Well, I'm honored to have you. And hey, if you're not doing anything tomorrow at 8 o'clock, actually 5 o'clock your time, 8 o'clock my time, Frank Sabovitz, who has produced every Super Bowl from 2005 to 2014, will be my guest. He has also produced every NFL draft from 2005 to 2014. And if you remember the Super Bowl between the Niners and the Ravens, technically the visiting Ravens in the Superdome, where the lights went out, that was his Super Bowl. We're going to talk about that, his wildly successful.
Turn the lights out?
He didn't turn them out, but he and Super Bowl general manager Doug Thornton were responsible for turning him back on.
That helped our Niners.
The Niners did benefit from that because prior to that, the Ravens were waxing the floor with the Niners. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to have you back, but tune in tomorrow at 5 o'clock your time if you're around. I'm really looking forward to my conversation with Frank, as I've looked forward to my conversation with you. So, folks, this is up on Zenny62 on YouTube. It will be a video in a matter of minutes. It will be on 60 of my Twitter accounts, and it will be on Google News. All right. Thanks, my man.
Thank you, Zenny.
You got it. I'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Got it. Yeah, so, hey, thank you, everybody. And John Akala, you say it's going to be – I got that one. You said – any guesses on how much the cheapest single game tickets for a Raider game in Las Vegas are going to cost? Yeah, I'm going to say the cheapest game you can get would probably be about 100. I would say 100. Well, let me put it this way. The first season, the first game, they'll be up there. So you're going to look at something like on the secondary ticket market, they're going to start off at $300, $250, okay? And so if you want to get a single game ticket, which I'll tell you what you do, okay? You go to StubHub, you keep monitoring the tickets, and then you keep monitoring them until the day before the game, right? There's always somebody that posts a ticket for lower than its market value, all right? So, I mean, I've done this with Raider tickets because I had Raider season tickets one year, but when I started flying from Oakland to here in Georgia, it became prohibitively expensive to have season tickets because then basically I'm thinking, okay, I can attend this game and then I can't. So I would just rather purchase them on StubHub and go that route. And that's how I did it. I would, because I love the clubs of the Coliseum, right? So I would simply monitor the club tickets and wait until I got one that was the right price, like, you know, $143 for a club seat at a Coliseum at the game for a big game at the Raiders game was what I would wind up paying, you know. So my thought is that you're looking at 100 low end through that. If you do it the way that I suggest, you're looking at spending about $130 somewhere in there, okay? And that's for a upper deck ticket. That's upper deck ticket your first 3 or 4 games, because what's going to happen is the first year is going to be this crazy madhouse. It's going to be a cycle of bidding up the tickets to higher, and it's Vegas, right? You know, they get jacked up to higher than nosebleed levels. And then by the end of the year, they come down. Now, of course, that varies with how well the team is doing. If the Raiders come out and they start losing their first 5 games, come games 6, 7, and 8, that's going to be an available, affordable ticket. All right. That's going to be available, affordable ticket. Now, the outlier will be the matchups. So, for example, look, I can tell you right now the contests that are going to be the highest dollar. The Raiders, Chiefs. And you could see that by the actions of some, you know, so-and-so planting the Chiefs Kingdom flag on the Raiders site on various occasions, right? So you can say Kansas City Chiefs, that's going to be a game. In fact, Kansas City, let's see, Kansas City, Las Vegas. I'm just typing them out. It's Kansas City, going to Kansas City, and that's a comma, Las Vegas. Hold on a second. You ever heard that song? Going to Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City. Anyway, all right. So flights to Las Vegas, which I'm not going to do. To drive to Las Vegas, right? Drive to Las Vegas. So you're talking about, I'm not getting exactly the quick response I'm looking for here, okay? So let me try this another way. Kansas City, Las Vegas drive. By car, all right? By car. Drive car, like that, all right? Let's see what that comes up to be. That would be, that, just eyeballing it, Las Vegas, Kansas City, that looks like a 3.5 hour drive. 8 hours? Well, it's 8 hours from the Bay, right? But from Vegas to Kansas City looks like a 6 hour drive. You see that? Look at this. Actually, it's more like it's more substantial than I thought. Okay. So you're looking at a few stops. Yeah. Hey, Sean Grogan, how you doing? Yeah, it looks like a 7 hour drive. 7, 8 hour, 9 hour drive. All right. Hold on a second. Trying to see what I I get on Google for this. I'm not getting it. See, type Las Vegas. This is Kansas City, right? So you're Kansas City, and then we type Las Vegas, Al Davis Way. Hey, I gotta say that. Okay, right. It's calculating. Ooh, you know what that is? That is a 19-hour, 48-minute drive. So that is something that's going to take you a day or so. That's going to take you a day. I would say that's going to take you a day of a day and a half of travel. Okay, so you're better off flying because that's 19 hours. But then, if that's the case, then what is it going to look like? What it will look like with um, Las Vegas and Denver, right? Because you have, let's say, Denver, right? Denver to Las Vegas. Denver to Las Vegas by car, all right? And that is, so that's drawn out. No results. Come on now. Denver to Las Vegas. You know how they come up with these stupid maps? These maps are ridiculous. All right, let's try this over here. Denver to Las Vegas drive like that, all right, is 12 hours and 1 minute, 12 hours. And that's via I-70 West and I-15 South. This is what that looks like. See that? Can you see the angle? Yeah, see the angle? All right. Okay. So that's what that looks like. You're going from Vegas, you're going from the Nevada through Utah to Colorado. That's 12 hours. So frankly speaking, from that standpoint, you're looking at the Broncos being the most likely game for a sellout. Broncos followed by the Chiefs in that area. In that area because they're closer. Those in terms of the rivalry games, that's what you're looking at. They're in this. They're in the center of it. And then if the Cardinals come up to play, that's just a few hours. So the Raiders are a lot closer to the breadbasket of America to get. You're gonna get a different crowd. I know last night Eric Metz said that he felt the Raider Nation was going to travel. It's going to be a great scene. But Eric doesn't know Raider Nation like I know Raider Nation. It's going to be different, okay? It just is. It's not going to be recognizable. It's just not going to be the same. It's like the Warriors in San Francisco. You're going to have all these high-dollar fans that don't yell, that aren't interested, and they're doing business, and it's a gift and all that, if they even go to the games when the games don't matter. And that will be the measure of difference between Oakland, where the Warriors, and San Francisco, where the Warriors. San Francisco, where the Warriors, you will not get fans that care to be there but don't have a lot of money. And so the crowd will be different. The crowd size will be different. After the first few games, when people want to see the new stadium and they get quickly used to it, watch. It's not, and the Warriors, God forbid, don't win, it's going to be that much worse, okay? They should, I really believe in the Oakland sports spirit. And what really bothers me is the feckless nature of our management infrastructure in the city that does not take action to say, okay, we've been wounded by this. Yeah, we're suing them in court. We're going to go a big step further. We're going to rebuild our sports infrastructure. We're going to petition the NBA for an expansion team. We're going to petition the NFL. We're going to sue if we don't get one. We're going to fight tooth and nail. We're going to build a state-of-the-art convention center, a state-of-the-art sports stadium. We're going to build these great venues. And we're going to show that government has the will and the initiative to complete big projects in Oakland. Government hasn't done that. So and that's not to say that don't use this and say, hey, Zinni says that it's okay, and the Raiders didn't do anything wrong. The Raiders did a lot wrong. A lot. All right. So Sean Grogan says with hotel, food, tickets, gas, and airfare, $800 to $1,000 a game won't be the same. No, it won't. It will not be the same. And you're going to an area where people are not used to paying that. Now, some of you out there are saying, hey, you know what? The casinos have already bought the tickets. I get you. So basically what you're telling me is this is going to be like a casino employee affair. Oh, yay. So you're going to get all of the casino folk who come from Chicago, they're Bears fans, or maybe from Denver, they're Broncos fans, or maybe from Dallas, they're Cowboys fans, but they're not Raiders fans. A number of people told me, well, I may go to a game. Let's see how that works out. John Acala says, you think airlines might even jack up prices to Las Vegas during football season when Raiders start playing there? Does a bear crap in the woods? There's my answer to you. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I really do. Wow. Hey, folks, tomorrow, Sean Grogan says, going to be casinos, high rollers attending games. Yeah, casino high rollers. And by all accounts, there are enough of them to fill a football stadium. But how long will that last? Will they then start giving away their tickets? Hey, maybe that's where you get your cheap ticket, right? Keep an eye on what the high rollers do or don't. Just saying. Tomorrow night, folks, at an early time, 8 o'clock Eastern. 8 o'clock Eastern. 5 o'clock Pacific. 5 p.m. Pacific. Frank Sapovitz, the Senior Vice President of Special Events for the National Football League from 2005 to 2014, will be on my show. He is the president of Fast Track Events, his own sports consultancy, where he has a number of fantastic engagements, including events that are affiliated with the National Football League to this day. We're going to talk about what it took to produce Super Bowls, what he learned along the way, what he's doing now. I want to get his take on, hey, can Las Vegas host a Super Bowl? What's the hold up in terms of not getting one from his standpoint? What does he think? What can he say? He can say a lot. Come back, 5 o'clock. Remember, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific, which is, 8 p.m. Eastern. Got that? 5 in the West, 8 in the East. All right. Technically, I'm not really pointing it. If I pointed that direction, actually, it is the East. Yeah, that's the East. And that's the West. I got it down. All right. See you all. Thanks a lot. Okay, see ya. Good night.